So, hello everyone. We have Deepkumar Varma with us, and let me quickly introduce Deep, and then we'll start the conversation with him. So, Deep has around 17 years of experience. Right now, he's working at PayPal as Director of Product Management. Earlier, he has worked as Group Product Manager at Microsoft Teams. Before that, he was working as Product Manager at Amazon, and before that, he was working as a senior product manager, product head at Agility Global, and before that, he was a product manager at Altisource. So that's the brief introduction of Deep, and he is an alumnus of IIT Roorkee and IIM Ahmedabad. And it is my pleasure and privilege to invite him and have a conversation with him and learn a lot of things from him. So let me start, Deep, with a very simple question that can you please tell, although I introduced you, but would like to know from you that how did your career evolve the way it has evolved?
Yeah, thanks, Alok, and thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone. So, I graduated in 2006, and I loved software programming, coding. At that time, we were taught only two languages. One was C++, another one was Java.
Hmm.
So, I loved coding in both of them, and that's where I wanted to explore my career as a software engineer. 2 years into software engineering, I realized uh, uh, there's a broader aspect of business which is also involved when we develop these software products and stuff. And to know a bit more on the business side, I gave CAT and did my MBA from Ahmedabad. Immediately out of college, I think that we were just coming out of the subprime crisis. So the placements were on the best at that particular point of time. I was placed in a operational consulting firm. Right, it's not the strategic concept with the main BCGs of the world, but it was more into operational consulting. And I realized that, like, I personally liked to build products. That was a core thing which I was really excited about, and I felt 6 months in, I wanted to move into the product management space. Uh, at that time, the word product management wasn't known. Like, we knew what we were making, but the term of product management and what the craft of product managers was, and those aspects were not clearly identified. But one thing was very clear, that I loved solving problems. I loved to solve problems by making some sort of a scalable output, which was more, as we call it, like a product which is there, and wanted to return in that forte. And that's where I got a chance to work under, I'd say, one of the leaders in the product management space today in India. Her name is Lalita Ramani. She's right now VP with Google Maps, and she helped a lot in terms of understanding, helping me understand the nuts and the bolts of product management. 2 years I was working with her, and then I realized that, yeah, this is a space where, leave aside domain, this is the craft, or this is the day-to-day activity that I want to do in my career over a period of time. And that's where I moved across different organizations, but try to apply the same logic, principles, the stuff that I do, to make an impact across all of these organizations. Alok called out, right? I've been lucky to have learned and understood products, and build good products which customers love in small organizations as well as large ones like Amazons and Microsofts of the world. And yeah, over a period of time, have been also lucky to kind of go ahead and build teams and pass on whatever learnings that I have had to my teams, especially at Amazon, Microsoft, and people, where I've got a lot of leadership, product leadership experience as well. So that's pretty much it, Alok, my journey.
Great, great. One interesting thing is since you've worked at product management for multiple types of organization, multiple types of product, what could be some of the learnings which you had by working in different products and different companies which themselves are leaders in product? That is one part of question. And second part is how in this journey you think or you have observed the product management career or in general product management has evolved.
Yeah, I think both are very, very important questions to discuss. Let me take the first one, right? I started my career, or majority of my career has been in B2B product management. wherein like whether it was Wipro or Altissos or even Excelity Global, right? So we developed products which were used by larger organizations and teams, and to have it scaled, uh, it's not a simplified product like a battery or even a B2C, like you just develop a website or e-commerce thing which is used by thousands and millions of pieces. There are teams which are more engaged and worked on complex problems which is required. When one works in the B2B domain, there are few nuances which come out a lot. One being the engagement cycle is a lot larger, which means right from pitch to demoing to customers our different capabilities, getting customers onboarded. There will definitely be some form of customization, configuration, onboarding phase, and then there is a go live phase, support phase. There's a lot longer customer engagement than a B2C cycle, which means there's a lot of understanding, which translates to the second difference, which is like you interact with a customer a lot more, and customers will have different requirements at different phases. You'll have to figure out how you work ahead. Uh, Now, this the same thing applies, Alok, to the first question that you said. When I started at a B2B domain, even in one company itself, there is a vast exposure of what kind of things you learn about what customer needs are. Initially, when pitching, we talk about impact driven, output driven, understanding the process, and high level pitch, like what a consulting pitch would be to solve a problem. But as you go deeper, right, you interact with the folks on the ground, you start developing the product. That's where the finer, nuanced, unknown requirements would also surface. And then we try to solve it and then have it all packaged together and offered, which enables these teams to get a wow factor. However, when I talk about like, so that's more on the B2B side, right? That's how it works. Larger sales cycle, more customer interactions. Typically, there is a configuration customization aspect. So we always have to wear that lens, what can be supported, what cannot be supported, as well as the count of customers are less, but it's not one, there's no one buyer. There's a group of buyers. You have to understand the nuances of it. Stakeholder management becomes even more bigger craft. So those are the typical four differentiating factors which happens in B2B domain. So I started my career in B2B domain, and then it, I know Microsoft Teams also is kind of B2B, B2B or B2B2C, but I'll still say it's a B2C because you have at the end the users are individual users and which are there. When I look at that cycle to how, let's say, an Amazon of the world operates, I worked in the checkout space. The customers, while buying on Amazon, will have to create an address, and that whole address experience from worldwide perspective is something that I looked after. When we look at that level of an experience and making a change, data-driven decision making becomes extremely important in that particular scale. So you are highly metrics driven, highly like for anything and everything that we had to do, there is some form of data which is required and used to see, like, one, to articulate a problem statement even when we are making an impact, how that impact will be made, and then stitching everything together. All of these things are handled right away from the data side to help us kind of get to the solution. So, and that story has, at least in the last 5 to 6 years, I've seen just grow itself. Like same is applied across all the organizations today. When you said that working around different organizations, how the PM thing has evolved, I think focus on customer experience, data driven decision making, focus on experimentation, and finally the latest new block in the game is the AI space, AI tools and stuff, right? So the enablement of doing all these things through AI have been the major things which I've seen change over a period of time. Like initially we used to write lengthy PRDs and documentation, and even interview techniques were all mainly focus group discussions or user interviews. Now there are plethora of other techniques and tools and analytics products which help us also get insights about our customers.
Great, great. Another thing is, since you're talking about getting so lot of people are really interested to transition to product management role, right? And what do you think, what could be a person should be doing if he or she has some experience in industry? It could be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and they want to transition to a product management role, maybe
Yeah.
from a tech role or maybe from a non-tech role. What could be
Yeah.
your some of the advice they should start doing so that they might transition to a product management role?
Yeah. So, this is a question, very very common question people ask about it. PM domain has grown a lot. CAGR increase in the roles have been anywhere from 15% to 20% growth in the product management roles that people have seen. Even the kind of exposure and growth within that particular role has been higher, and companies are realizing the impact that PM role has, which means people look forward to transitioning into PM roles, and it gives the right and there are reasons for it, right? It also gives you the right opportunity to work on different things, make an impact, and do so many different aspects, which helps you kind of move ahead as well. The the primary thing which I tell all the individuals, irrespective of the background, whether you are a software engineer or not, whether you are a you are an infrastructure you are a support person, you are a marketing person, you're sales side, CA, whoever, right? If you feel product management is something that excites you, you should be excited about the primary craft of product management, which is to understand the customers, articulate, understand the problems, prioritize the problems, solution it, and being able to deliver something which customers love. This is the primary nuts and bolts of what product management is all about, right? Consulting is more about problems and then giving solutions, and sometimes the implementation phases, but then someone else takes it. From a product management perspective, the journey looks very similar, but how you solve is through a product. You're not going ahead and giving operation solutions, or you're not giving ahead and giving a marketing solution to them. It is through a product that is getting developed, which helps you solve the customer problem. If this is something which is exciting you, then for anyone who might not be in a PM role as well, I would like them to build this experience and muscle on how they are doing it, right? Sometimes what happens is we do some of these activities in our current roles itself. We are not realizing it, but that's what product management is. If in a given role we are connecting with customers to know their problem, trying to take a step back, analyze it, prioritize it, and then delivering features, products, capabilities in a productized manner, which is helping them solve it, you are effectively in some form or the other aligned with or doing what a product manager is expected to do. Now, first part is, if you're not doing this and you're interested about product management, you should definitely try it in whatever role. No one is going to say you no, right? If there are some if you're if you're a marketing analyst and you find that yeah, I like to connect with customer, I'm connecting with them because of for whatever activities that I'm doing. Can I go ahead and connect backwards and get the needed product features or capabilities being built, which help them, is something that I can do. So first part is try out what the basic craft of product management is in your given role itself, because that way you will be able to experience it, see it, what it means, and how it works. Second thing is also is understanding some of the nuts and bolts of product management. At times what happens is, like, people come in and reach out saying, yeah, I'm doing XYZ, I'm a software, typical use cases, I'm a software engineer, I'm doing code, I want to move into product management, right? But majority of them don't even know like what a product manager does or what a day in life of product manager means, right? There's plethora of information which is available right now on the internet, on YouTube, Google it. Now the chat GPTs and perplexities of the world will give you all of these things. Try to see, understand the nuances of it, or there are like several courses and several workshops which enable you to understand it and place your experience into what work you have done in product management. So, for example, people will ask you, Tell me about a time when you're faced with a customer problem and you think it was a really big one and you were able to make an impact. You should be able to think about like what customer problem was and how you were able to articulate it to make an impact through a product that you worked on. That fits into a PM experience. So being able to have that experience plus being able to understand the nuances of PM, merging the two and applying to yourself would be the third step that I would recommend to the individuals associated to moving into PM role. And finally, this is what I think the UX Janta, the UX cohort does a lot. Have your portfolio, have your understanding, like 2, 3 products, try to break it down. If someone asks, and there's no dearth of it, like take Zomato's of the world, Swiggy's, Uber's, whatever product that you like, right? Have a viewpoint saying, this is a product I like, why you like it, what excites you about it. Let's say if you are a product manager for that particular product, how would you go about doing your different activities, right? Stretch yourself to think in that hypothetical scenario. That will enable you to kind of also think through, let's say, what product managers would do. That will help you in whenever you are applying for an interview or getting into a role to move ahead. So these are the primary 3, 4 things which I recommend individuals to do. Reflect on yourself, identify your experience where PM domain has the poor PM exposure you have. Second, learn the basics of PM through whatever mechanisms that you find. Third, apply it on your experience, and then see what fits where. Typical Amazon principles and applying those will happen. And fourth, have a viewpoint. Build your portfolio or like build your case studies that you would want to talk about, which excite you from a PM perspective.
Great. That is very comprehensive, very structured also. Just one follow-up, or I would say I want to dig deep into it. Two-part question. First part is, you would have interacted or you would have seen a lot of resumes which you get supplied, who applies to maybe some of the product management role in your company or in your department, and you might have interviewed them, some of them as well. What are the things, common things you see in those resume or in those interview, which people should be aware that they should not be doing it, or which you think is not, I would say, aligned with applying for product management role, either in resume or in interview or anywhere?
That's a my mind is thinking across different dimensions right now. But let's take one at an example, like a resume, right? Hypothetical case, I'm not hiring someone who's senior, let's say 2 years, 3 years of experience. Even if someone doesn't have a PM experience, that's fine. Like, what I would like to know from that individual is the resume talking just from, okay, I did this, like just the activities, or are you also focused on what customer impact that you made? That's a primary, like the first uh, first filter that I apply if I want to kind of go ahead and talk it. Like, is the individual just focusing on himself or herself and just saying, I did this, I did this, I did this, or the individual is also thinking that I did this, so what? Like, then there is an impact which is there. Revenue went down, or customer experience improved, or time to do blah 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 kind of go ahead and reduced, whatever that activity that enables me to think through then that the person is not just looking at what is being told to be done, but they are willing to go ahead and step and make a really good impact associated to the experience that they have, right? So that's the first thing which I really look forward to, through which, let's say, filtering kind of goes ahead and happens. Second thing, and this applies specifically to the tech folks, there is a tendency to just put tech jargons in the CV. I used Kafka to do this, blah, 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 or I did on Kubernetes, I did this thing, this is this. It's a mechanism to, there's no need for you to talk about the products that you have used. It applies in, and I'm not denying, filtering that happens sometimes of CVs happens on keywords. So you would want to go ahead and keep the keywords in your CV. But in the aspect where you're describing your experience, if you're just using, I used Kafka, or I've used the AWS web services or Harness or God knows what, right? So it doesn't, at least it doesn't fly until you provide me the context of what customer problem that you're solving. And At times, like technical jargons are more road bumps to understanding also what aspects that people might have had. So think of it. The person who might be reviewing your CV from a PM perspective might not be from a technical background. If you throw technical jargons to it, it just becomes boss. I'm going to speak about customer problems to that individual. The person is going to throw back technical jargons at me. It possibly doesn't fly. So sometimes you feel, yeah, too much technical stuff. Let's leave it out. It's okay to have technical experience till you know that you're solving what customer problems and put it in your CV, right? Um, Third thing, which is kind of a deterrent, is the amount of content which individuals keep on your CV. A CV is meant to be like if I was filtering 10 CVs, I would spend 30 seconds on one CV, or like for 1 minute maximum. I want to be able to understand or grasp majority of like the important things which the individual would have done. If the individual himself or herself is not able to prioritize what is more important in their experience and put it on the CV, the person is going to fail on the prioritization part, right? So prioritization, customer obsession, making an impact, or data driven, like these are the three key pillars on how PMs make an impact. So if one is not able to do prioritization on their own experience and just putting their entire bible on the CV, it makes it very difficult to think through. So at least these are the three high level filters through which I kind of made. It's not about selection, but mainly filtering out the number of CVs that we do when we do a short list from a resume perspective. And then you figure out, okay, these are the specific ones typically for a role as a hiring manager. You would want per shot, possibly a close to 8 to 10 good CVs that you get, so that those people could be reached out for further experience, further interest, and those could be put in the pipeline of evaluation. So that's how the evaluation we do based on the CV. Second thing that you asked, Alok, and let me know if that time is a concern. Second thing that you asked is, yeah, during the interviews, what are the things which kind of are the deterrents? During the interview, being able to articulate and talk about things in a meaningful manner, like we typically talk about SBI framework or STAR framework, right? Like situation, task, action, result. So that one is able to understand, okay, this is a situation, this is a task on hand. Yeah, these are the actions taken by the individuals. These are the results that you get. If there are some learnings and extra stuff which get you, those are brownie points. So if one is able to talk in that manner, the other individual is able to understand as well, and then you can ask further probing questions, that why did you not do this? Or like, if you did this, what mistakes did you realize, or what roadblocks did you get? And then that becomes a more constructive discussion on which one is able to understand the depth of the person in terms of the work that they have done, and see if the person has been able to apply any of those PM concepts either in the role or in the project itself, and is aware of it or not. For me, this is the bottom line. Like, this is what I want. I want to do if I'm taking PM interviews. It doesn't matter which, like, there are scenarios where you need some sort of domain expertise, but there are scenarios majority of time when you don't need domain expertise. Then in those scenarios, this is a typical pattern through which we look forward to getting an answer and digging deeper to evaluate, saying where does an individual lie. To me, if one does this aspect well, it is all that is required. Then there are some basic final points, like communication needs to be slower, or you need to use pauses. You need to be able to explain the scenario in a much more methodical manner. Second thing that I would also say is, at times people say, this was a problem, this was a scenario, and this is an action that I took, and pause and stop. And this is a regular pattern across 2 3 things. People are not able to identify making an impact. Possibly more often than not, I don't go ahead and let them move ahead. So these are the few high level points that I include when I'm shortlisting resume or taking an interview.
Since you mentioned frameworks at some point of time, a lot of people, when they start preparing for product management interviews, they really get obsessed with all these frameworks, circles frameworks, or triple A, double R, or double A, triple R framework, and there are so many frameworks, right? While I understand they might be useful, but how do a recruiter see if you know those framework or if you don't know those framework? if you are using those framework or if you're not using those framework, how is that much, how much important is that?
Uh, we don't expect individuals to know a specific framework,
Mhm.
but we expect individuals to have a methodology in the way they go ahead and do the work. Right?
Got it.
Star and SBA, because I said from a framework perspective, like those are easy to understand and easy to understand, easy to communicate on different things that we are doing. But even if someone says, okay, no, I have a slightly different framework, but they are able to do the job, just to communicate and then share out all these aspects, it is fine. So we don't look forward to, do you have experience in a particular framework or not, or have you applied or done this or not? Like, so that's on the proper specifics of the framework. Saying, have you applied Moscow technique in prioritization? No one possibly will ask something like that. But people will look forward to, okay, tell me about a time when you had tough prioritization problem and like how did you solve it? And then someone should be able to say that, okay, these are the tools, and looking forward to, let's say, a Kano method or whatever method. So they are able to understand it and then justify why they use something. So that is something which is more important when it comes to framework. Are they able to think through and have a structure? Framework, the frameworks are like tools. Like they are the tools which are available at disposal.
Mhm.
Right? You should think about like which tool is important and what kind of fight, and then start using those tools for different activities. That's what we look forward to having.
So that clarified a lot. Another thing is just to take some examples from your own experiences of you giving the interviews. Do you remember any interesting interview question or any interview case which you got, and how did you dealt with it? Maybe some unexpected case or an interesting
Yeah.
case.
So I think one of the interesting stuff which was asked at Microsoft for me, I remember it even today and always think about it, is I was asked to design a study table for kids. I had a 3-year-old daughter at that particular point of time, and that particular case study stuck with me even now. And my daughter is 8-year-old, considering there is so much more that one could do. Even today, if I sit outside and in my balcony and think about it, sipping coffee and thinking what are the different aspects or considerations which could be thought about, it becomes meaningfully important, right? So that's those kind of things are something that have always stuck me a lot. Nowadays, especially if you ask me, earlier people used to ask about slightly technical questions and theory questions, a bunch of like talk about product strategy or what do you think about this market. And nowadays it is all behavioral scenario based questions when it comes down to even senior PMs or PM leadership, and they look forward to seeing or articulate. And during the interviews, we look forward to seeing that is one able to think through only at a superficial level, or has someone thought really deeper into different nuances of it.
Mhm.
That's how it happens. So all these, the one that I just described, design a study table for kids, was more a product design related case study which was there. So that could be one of the uh, interview slots, or one of the interviews could be for the same, but majority of the rest will be on different aspects like product strategy, leadership, stakeholder management, customer empathy and customer obsession, those kind of things.
Another follow up on that, Deep, it's very interesting to see because I've also following some of the interview questions and everything. Usually, the large tech firms, they do ask questions which are non-technology related, like
Yeah,
design a phone for a kid or a design a
yeah,
phone for a kid. Is
yeah.
there any this thing about it? Is there any specifics about it? What is how that helps a company to?
Yeah, the companies are not like, even if Microsoft might have a study table for kids, it doesn't mean that Microsoft is building furniture now and trying to compete with IKEAs of the world.
Yeah,
So that's not the intent. The intent is like when placed in a scenario which the user might be comfortable about, they know about it. Are they able to think through and apply their PM logic to take the products, the needful products ahead? Because that way context setting and all could be avoided. Like people might say, okay, you know what, you are part of the Pulsar team or the Kafka team, and then you are trying to design the next gen messaging queue, and which is required. And people might be thinking, boss, I have not even used messaging queues. Like, what's the point now? Then the context goes missing. Then we are not able to understand even the PM craft.
Mhm.
The idea of giving simplified case studies or something which majority of the folks will be able to relate to, whether it is Ola's, Uber's, or the world, or Zomato, or Swiggy, or Instamart, any of these, because most of the users would have, most of the interviewees would have used some of these apps, and if they have used it and they have had this customer obsession, they would have thought about few aspects on how they could have improved it. They could have thought about, like, if it could be improved, what could be prioritized. So that's what we look forward to identifying. It's not about just giving something simple out there, or the companies pouring into a completely different domain.
Great, great. Uh, you have been mentoring a lot of people, and generally you always like to help people. And I
Yeah.
can see that also, right? You always love to help people. How that helps you in your whatever, either career or in life?
Yeah, it gives me satisfaction. I like to play. So, like I've received a lot of guidance from from my managers, peers, whom I've worked with, even friends as well in similar domains. Mm, I look forward to. There's no input output equation over here. It's more like something which I just like. Sometimes you just like doing few things and enabling people who might reach out. That's all that whenever I go ahead and want to help out individuals, I go ahead and try to suggest that. There's no expectation from that regard in terms of helping out people. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you an example. When I was at Axility, there was a program manager who had joined in. Uh, that person was actually my peer for some point of time, and because I was heading the product at that time, and the individual was working with the teams which are there, the product was aligned under me to be a single owner to drive few things. And while interacting with the program manager, she kind of mentioned that she is not able to understand some of the technical nuances, because as a program manager you need to know what is the risk, what are the challenges being faced, some of the nuts and bolts. Otherwise you're just taking notes and then sharing out notes. If you want to go ahead and make a contribution, you should be able to understand those technical nuances, what we are doing, why we are doing, where it is stuck and stuff. Now it's okay, part and parcel, not everyone knows everything. I helped. First and foremost was, then you start with the basics, like, do you know the problem, or do you know the product? Okay, you know product 20-30%. Try to solve that understanding of product. So then we said, okay, let's spend next 3 days. I get your buddy, you work with this buddy to understand different nuances. Let's see if you're able to get, we are working with this project, then you make do your understanding, get me at the end of the week, let's connect on Friday afternoon to say, we had 5 days of a week then, so let's connect at Friday afternoon to know what you learned about it. Next day, something else. Next day, okay, let's talk about what our customers are saying and customer problem. I helped define the path for her across 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, on what are the different things that she should do, which helps her understand the product and be a better program manager in what are the different things that she was working on. In parallel, she was able to also bring out those nuances, which I also wasn't aware of. That, okay, customers need this thing, or we should do something in this manner, or these are the places where our product latencies or some of these things are a bit of a gap. Personally, this whole experience taught me two things. And that's where, like, she transitioned into a bit into product plus program kind of a role, and helped share some of the product nuances. One, I was thinking, like, to understand product management and knowing the crowd, like knowing what customers need and stuff, you need to be in the role and then move ahead. Over here, you're working with the right stakeholders at different points of time, and that itself was able to articulate it well. Right. So the first and foremost thing was that you could mentor people to go ahead and define their charter, define the path, through which they can walk the PM scope and make an impact. That was one. Second thing, it also emphasized for me was if someone is really determined to do anything, uh, one can go ahead and make an impact. Like that person was not even she didn't have software engineering background, and being
Correct.
able to in a technical domain working as a program manager, it becomes difficult. But like if one is interested to go ahead and learn, he was able to bring out nuances of how the product is working from a completely different perspective. Sometimes we think of, oh, this talks to this module and this is this module stuff, and she brought out the experience in a different manner. That also opened the foray that there is pros and cons of having all different types of people in product management space. So at least in my career, not from a PM perspective, but from a leadership perspective, this was kind of an eye opener to say individuals can be channeled into the right direction to go ahead, work on different things, and make an impact. And I could do justice by giving the right direction, directional inputs, evaluating, having these feedback points and evaluating it. And the output was great. Like 6 months down, she was like handling much more larger number of teams and projects as a program manager and making a good thing. And that again builds the satisfaction muscle over a period of time. But then if one is interested to learn, there's no stopping it. And that was one of the key learnings that I took. So
I think this is a very super inspiring story. And I mean, just to add one quote of one of my professor, right? If student is ready, teacher will arrive, right?
yeah,
She was willing to learn, and that helps in the entire ecosystem. So that's a great
yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Just
Vice
last,
versa is also true. That no matter how ready teacher is, if student is not ready, nothing happens.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah,
find
yeah.
these candidates also in employees every now and then. So the idea is to
Yes,
make sure how do we get motivation going for individuals and things happen.
yes. Very, very important actually. Very, and now specifically now when one things are changing so fast, generation is changing so fast, their mindsets are thinking changing so much fast, it becomes even more important to,
Yeah,
you know, how do you follow that hard work process to learn something
absolutely.
and then do things effectively, right? People have
Yeah.
that scale mentality always.
With AI, everyone is like, no, no, let me do this in 10 minutes and just
Yeah.
ask ChatGPT. So people are just becoming ChatGPT experts.
No, AI is also there, even that quick commerce mentality, right? That I can get
Mhm.
anything in 10 minutes, right? So
Yeah,
that's also one important, I would say, change happening. And I think, and somehow, let's say when you're preparing for a marathon, right? You have to give that hard work. There's no shortcut.
absolutely. There's no shortcut. Yeah, that's true. There's no shortcut to it. You can be smarter to know what you want to do and what you don't want to do, but hard work and perseverance are key.
Right. Great. One last question, Dave. I have already taken a lot of time of yours. Just last question, and this is
No, no,
just
sure.
an ending note from you to all your mentees or people who would be with, seeing this discussion. What could be your one last advice to all of them on how do they, evolve in their career? How do
Yeah,
they make their career more successful and more
yeah,
meaningful?
yeah. I think in today's time when AI is coming in, we see these news of layoffs and restructuring. The lot of anxiety is there in the ecosystem. The one piece of advice which I would give everyone is to be hungry and stay and always build on your learning muscle, right? So stay hungry, uh, take risks, be bold. I think if I had to summarize it, right? So be bold in all the different activities that you do, whether it is at a work, in your life, in your learning, all these things. And things should fall into play. The AI is going to be there, but it doesn't mean that it is going to take away 100% of jobs. It might take away a few, but not 100%. So that's how it is.
Great. So it has been really, I mean, for me also, it's when we, so two things stood out in this discussion. First, your eagerness to and your sincerity to, share your insights and your insight itself. They are really great. And the kind of detail you've done, for every question, you've given so much detail. It's very good, very structured, and very, very insightful. So thank you so much for that,
So
Deep. I
I've
will.
had this, yeah, I've had this feedback that I speak a lot, but I try to, let's say, I'll try to be more concise and precise in general. Um, Along the way, I also want to acknowledge the fantastic work, let's say, Alokyu, Suhrata, and the entire team at GoCrackit are doing. In today's time, when there is anxiety, there are challenges where the careers are happening, the upskilling piece of, or even the directional guidance and the small and the large impact which co-create is able to make to individuals and the community as a whole is really really important. That's been the primary reason why I've loved to associate with all of you for I don't know how much, like close to a decade or like
Yes, yes.
right now, and looking forward to it. Keep up the good work.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And I will be in connect and we'll be meeting in some different situations also.
And
So thank you
absolutely,
so much.
sure,
Thank you so much
sure.
for that. It's always been great to connect with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alok. Take care. Good.
Bye bye. Bye.